Hello, everybody. It's been a while since I've done one of these update videos. Um, no reason, been busy. School kind of keeps me busy, still working full time. So, there's that. So it's been 8 months, it's been over 8 months since I started this journey, and everything is still really going great. Um, I've kind of gotten a little relaxed, allowed some things to kind of come back into my diet, but for the most part, it's been great. Um, I had family in town a couple weeks ago, and so I went ahead and just threw on my CGM, allowed myself to have some things that I hadn't had in the previous 7 months. Um, Kind of more precautionary than anything, but I also kind of wanted to test some stuff just to see how I react. Um, no big surprises, honestly. So the first night that I had family in town, we had chuck roast. So I made a chuck roast but I made it kind of like a pot roast without the gravy. But I made it with so it was more keto. So it was sweet onions and green beans, and then I also made those little red potatoes. It was mostly for everybody else, not so much for me, but I love potatoes, and so I did have a couple of those. Didn't really go very well. Kind of went as expected, so that's okay. At least I know I could have a little bit occasionally, and I'm probably all right. But it's not something I'm gonna really have. Um, I couldn't even tell you if I'll ever have it. Another thing I tested. So it's summer here in Utah, and there's a lot of fruit in season. So we're known for our cherries and apricots, peaches, nectarines, a lot of stone fruits, and we're also known for melons here. And so I had a chance to have some cherries, these big, beautiful cherries that were like the size of like a small apple. I swear they were huge. I had some of those, and I had some really good watermelon. And the cherries, yeah, I had a little bit of a reaction to it. Not terrible. The watermelon actually was better. Um, Actually surprising. I didn't actually expect that. So, yeah, I enjoyed that. It was nice. I didn't have a whole lot, and so at least I kind of know that I can have a little bit of that stuff. And I didn't suspect that fruit was a really big issue because it wasn't a really big issue for me before. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fructose that's in fruit. It's not really processed, so it's processed into the liver, so there really isn't much of a glucose response to fruit, and that's pretty normal. Um, so that was kind of what I expected. I had no other digestive issues from it. Noticed no skin issues really so much, but I did kind of let my diet go off, and it wasn't really about what I was eating. It was more about what I wasn't eating. So I wasn't as good with staying on top of making sure that I had my eggs and my beef every day, and making sure I was getting enough fat in. Um, I really wasn't doing that. I was kind of eating whenever I wanted. So I probably was definitely vastly under eating and not eating enough. Definitely not eating enough beef. I mean, there were a couple days I had no beef at all, and I usually have a serving of beef about every day, and eggs too, at least in some degree, and I didn't. So I did have a little bit of some issues, but it wasn't too bad. So yeah, not a bad experiment. It went really well. Something else too. So I hadn't had any alcohol at all, not a drop, since December, and we had some friends over while I had family in town, and we had a game night, which was a lot of fun. And of course, there were some adult indulgences. And so I went ahead and indulged a little bit, had some really good um, bourbon whiskey, had a little bit of spiced rum. And as I expected, it didn't really affect me negatively, and not have had anything to drink in the last 8 months. It didn't really take much to get a nice little buzz, and I had a good time, and it was fine, and I didn't have any really negative effects from that, though there was one night where I had some too close to bed, and so the quality of my sleep wasn't the greatest that night. You got to be really careful about separating drinking alcohol from your bedtime, probably at least a couple hours, because you can fall asleep really easily, but the quality of sleep is just going to be garbage. And it was, and I knew, and I was okay with it. So there was that. The other thing is to so I had stopped tracking for a while, for a long while. I kind of already knew. I ate, I ate when I was hungry. I stopped when I was full. I was eating about 2 full meals a day, smallish meals, what most people would consider small meals. For me, they're pretty good sized meals, and then like a fatty coffee in the morning. So that's been pretty my typical. Occasionally, I might have like 3 smaller meals and then my fatty coffee, but I usually almost always have the fatty coffee in the morning, and that's been really working well. But one thing I started to notice is that my period disappeared again. Now, I'm kind of getting to be about that age where I have to think about perimenopause, and it's a possibility. Um, so actually, back in the end of last August, I had lost my period, and I had nothing for the rest of the year. As a matter of fact, I was on carnivore for almost a month, and then it finally came back. So it was from the beginning of September till almost the end of January. I went without one, which was odd. Um, During that time, I had went to see the doctor, and this was when I was still kind of really just eating, my standard clean diet, low carb still. Um, the doctor had suggested adding some soy to my diet to kind of boost estrogen, which I tried. I, I mean, obviously it didn't really help, but then I went on carnivore and it came back. But then in May, it kind of just went away. And I didn't think anything of it right at first, but then it was gone for several months. And I just thought, okay, there's something going on. And I wasn't tracking, and I've been suspecting that I'm probably under eating, because it's just so easy to under eat. I don't eat much when I do eat because I can't, and I'm just not very hungry. And so I think that was part of my problem, and I still think that's part of my issue. Um, During that time, I decided to bump up my fats. So I kind of had been hovering right around 70% fat, um, calories from fat. And had been doing okay with that. Still a little bit of constipation, so some days I would make up for it and I'd have a little bit more, and I'd always would feel a little bit better. So at one point I decided to do a week where I went super high fat. So I did more like, I was over 80% easily. I wasn't really tracking, but I would stick the numbers or I'd stick the information into the AI, and it would kind of give me an idea of where I was at. So I think I was sitting right around about 82% of fat, and I felt great. As a matter of fact, I felt better than I had the probably the 6 weeks before. My energy my energy level went back up and everything, and I was kind of hoping that it would bump up my um, hormone production. And, maybe it did, and it just took a while. Eventually, I did get my period back. Um, I don't know what to actually attribute that to. I still do think that I'm under eating, but I've also let my fat drop off again, and I've noticed the energy drop off again. I mean, I still got really pretty dang good energy. Like, my energy is pretty clean and even all day long. I don't have any problems waking up in the morning. I don't have problems really staying awake during the day, but my energy level has definitely dropped off. So, I'm going to actually start bumping up my fats again, and I'm going to stick with it for a longer period of time. I'd like to see if maybe also that my period would regulate back to where it was before, because between the end of January and about May, it was perfectly fine. It was like I was cycling about right around that every 30 to 35 days, which is exactly where I wanted to be. Um, so, yeah, I don't know. I do want to still stay right around 100 grams of protein a day. Um, so that will actually hopefully force me to eat some more. I've started to track again, just to kind of get an idea of how much I've been eating. And I was. I feel like I was probably under eating. I definitely wasn't eating as much protein, or not as much protein, but as much fat. So I think that that was a big part of it. I don't know if that's an ample amount of calories for me. My weight's pretty much stayed about the same since about the end of January. I've kind of just hovered right around about 155 pounds. I'm 5'3", but I'm also still got quite a bit of lean tissue. So I'm 155 pounds at 5'3", but I'm also like a 28.5-inch waist. So I don't really have a lot of visceral fat, like fat around my midsection, really almost none at all. I can flex and see my abs. I carry a lot of my weight in my lower body. I always have. So it's a pretty good weight for me. I've not, like I said, I didn't go into this for weight loss. I mean, sure, it would be nice if I could lose. I probably would be nice if I could lose a little bit of weight. I'd like to see myself getting down closer to about 140, but I also don't want to really lose muscle mass. I already feel like I've lost a little bit. Hence why I want to keep my protein up. And I want to make sure that I'm keeping my calories adequate, but I also want the energy. So that's just going to mean that I'm just going to have to eat a lot more. I'm probably going to have to add another meal, or at least some kind of high fat snack uh, during the day, which is fine. I could do that. I'm gonna try that, and I'm gonna try to be more consistent with that. I want to get back up to that 80+% um, fat percentage, because I think I'll just do better that way. But anyway, so yeah, that's where I'm at, and it's like I said, it's going really well, and I still feel really good. I haven't had any hypoglycemia episodes. My skin has stayed completely clear for the last, wow, it's been 3.5 months, more than 3.5 months, which is amazing because I've actually added conventional dairy, like A1 dairy, back into my diet, because I thought for the longest time first I couldn't have any dairy at all, and then I discovered that A2 dairy didn't seem to bother me, and actually raw unpasteurized dairy didn't really seem to bother me too much. But I've now allowed myself to have some conventional dairy. Like, I'll do like half and half in my coffee, and then I'll get like some hard cheeses, though most of that's unpasteurized, but sometimes it does end up being pasteurized. I have had some, and I haven't had any ill effects. I haven't had too much I haven't actually had any gastrointestinal issues, joint issues, skin issues, etc., etc., etc. But one thing I noticed, which I found really interesting, is that while I can put the cream, or the half and half, or the heavy cream, in my hot coffee, if I drink it in like an iced coffee, I have a tendency obviously to drink that a lot faster, and for some reason I get a little bit of gastrointestinal distress. It's happened the last 2 days in a row where I've had an iced coffee in the morning, and about a third of the way through it I had to stop drinking it because it was like, this ain't right, this doesn't seem right. And then I end up just switching over to the hot coffee, and it was fine. So that's interesting. So I still think I really do have a dairy sensitivity. So I'm definitely going to keep the amount I consume low, which is fine. I don't need all that. I like it just fine as a condiment. I don't make cheese a meal. I don't make it a major part of a snack. I might have a couple cubes, maybe an ounce at a time. With the cream, it's never more than maybe a half of a cup at a time, and that's usually in the hot coffee. And I'm drinking that over, a period of several hours. So yeah, so that's interesting. I don't know what to make of it, but that's it. Everything's great. And if you're noticing any of those sorts of things, that could be, I don't know. If anybody's got any other thoughts about the fat percentage, like as far as energy goes, and then being more regular with my period. Now I am 45, or almost 45. Like I'll be 45 here in about a month. So it could be that. But yeah, if anybody's got any thoughts about that, I'd be interested in seeing what you think, what your experience has been. Also, a couple days ago, I posted up one of my videos of my beef butter, bacon, and egg recipe series. My videos aren't fancy. I kind of just clip them together. I don't have a lot of time to do the videos, and I don't do any fancy editing or anything. It's not because I don't want to. It's just I don't have the time to, and I just want to get the information out there. I'm not trying to do any kind of fancy production. So I have another one I'm going to have out probably next week or so. It's pretty much done. That I'm going to post up of my carnivore biscuits and buns recipe that I make. I like it because it kind of adds a little variety to my diet, and they're super easy they're super, super easy to make. So I'll be posting that up, and I hope you enjoy those. I hope they give you an idea of how to make carnivore a little less boring, because I know sometimes people find that eating the same things over and over and over again can be kind of boring. I'm honestly not bored. I love it. I look forward to my steaks that I have on a fairly regular basis. I look forward to having the eggs. I enjoy it. I love it. But, you're not me. Anyway, I probably should get back to work, but just wanted to chat and hope you're all well. Get out there, get some sun, and have a big juicy steak. Until next time.